Ladies and gentlemen, creative community out there, it's such a blast that you are back on our latest episode of Talks on Acting. You know it by now, we're always jumping all over the place to discover new and beautiful pockets of creativity, of art, of craftsmanship, of international actors and coaches. And we've been traveling to the southeast of the United States, to California, and now it was at the time to jump to the east, to go back to the roots. And we have live and direct from Industry City, Brooklyn, New York City, Terry Knickerbocker from the amazing TERRY KNICKERBOCKER Studios. I'm so thrilled that you are joining the show, taking your time to empowering our community as well. So thank you so much for being here today.
You're so welcome. You have great energy. I would like all my students to feel your energy.
Thank you so much. They get a lot of knowledge from you. They get a lot of very interesting and beautiful, intimate and simple, but not easy insights on how to transform themselves.
I hope so. It's not easy to become a skillful performing artist. It's not easy to become a ballet dancer or a violinist. Some actors think that training is not as important.
Yes.
And that they should just, make a movie on their iPhone, but it's not going to be so good.
How important is detail to you?
It's everything.
It's everything.
Precision and clarity. I had a teacher who said that the mark of a true artist is precision and clarity. And it should be clear and it should be precise. And, we have a script and we have to make every moment clear. You can't just keep doing the same moment over and over again. And so that calls for imagination, that calls for skill, and that calls for really creating something that has a very detailed beginning, middle, and end. And it's those performances that we love.
I totally agree. How do you carve out that detail out of your students? Because sometimes with my clients, they jump into the studio, they stay for 60 minutes and it's always beautiful. It's always very engaging. But you, of course, you have a studio facility, you have a place, a safe haven for people to express over a longer period of time. So you have time to get into those angles, into those corners.
That's right. Well, you do it by making a mistake and doing it not so well first. So a very typical feedback from me to someone in my second year, it's a 2-year Meisner-based program, Sanford Meisner's work, which I know they have in Berlin. I don't know if they have much in Munich. Yeah.
No, they don't. In Munich, not so far, just a few workshops.
It's a wonderful approach. And so a very typical piece of feedback would be that, okay, it's one note. Now that note is a good note. That's a very good note. But now we need to get some other colors. You cannot go to a restaurant, a fine restaurant, and have a tasting menu where everything is spinach or everything is green, right? There has to be some sort of journey. No playwright is going to have, no good playwright is going to have the character do the same thing over and over and over again. They have an objective.
Yes.
That's a simple objective, but they need a lot of different approaches for how to do it. And they need a lot of different responses that they have to craft for what the other characters' meanings, how they land in them, right? It can't just be that everything's an insult, and it cannot be that everything is me just protesting that insult, right? That's a one note. That's crude, but that's a good beginning. Once you've got that, Michelangelo would say that he would look at a block of marble and see the statue already in it. And then he would take everything away chip by chip by chip, that's not the statue.
Right.
So at first, it may look kind of crude, but as he gets into the detail of it and polishing it and looking at it and assessing it and seeing where the light and the shadow fall, and are the hairs separate enough, and is the skin pores clear, that's a real true portrait. That's a work of art. So we get a lot of, if you look at Van Gogh, you don't have, or Rembrandt, or Klimt, you don't have any questions about the importance of detail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And art looks always terrible until it looks great. There is a certain point where it switches and it looks terrible for a very long period of time. And people get confused over the process. It's not possible. I'm working, I'm investing, I'm doing so much and it still looks terrible. Yes, guess what? It will look terrible till a couple of steps before the goal. Before you actually achieve the mission, until then, it will look like a mess.
Yes, that's okay. I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I'm kind of get used to the idea over time, and it's still challenging for me, even though I'm acting for a fair amount of time so far in my life. But it's still the challenge. it's still to kind of, suppress that ego inside of yourself, right? And it
Yes.
wants it immediately, that wants that instant
Yes.
gratification, wants it right now,
Yes.
and big and
Yes.
grand, and come on, you
Yes.
can
Yeah.
smash those guys. And maybe you have the talent.
Yeah.
I've seen that with a lot of my clients and some students. They have immense talent, but like you said, they must be willing to invest that time, that consequence of excluding what's unnecessary to your craft for a certain period of time until you have that initial structure, which then you can actually do something tangible with.
Yes. And you have to be committed to the truth rather than
Oh, yeah.
to looking good.
Meisner is about the truth.
Yes.
It's about the
100%.
instant and the truth and what happens and how
Yes.
can I react to that. And I think
Yes.
it's super powerful. It's a very direct and tangible method. It makes totally sense to me. And I've worked
That's
with a
great.
lot of Meisner students all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's always great to work with them because besides everything, they know on a good day, on a bad day, I still have that cushion of,
Yes.
and it's kind of flexible and works. It's an amazing structure. I still have that. It will uphold even my not so good days. Let's say it that way.
Well, I love it because I went to New York University, which is one of the best schools for training in the world. And we started with scene study. So day one, we were doing Tennessee Williams. And that's just what you did. And so then you learn how to do that scene, but it doesn't set you up for the next scene.
Mm-hmm.
And Meisner also, besides being a great man of the theater, was also a pianist. And so he understood that in piano, you start with scales. And so like, what is the equivalent of scales for the actor so that we're not trying to get into repertoire yet?
Mm-hmm.
No one goes to a concert to see scales, but
Sure.
if you do scales every day, you start to become a better musician. So he came up with this repetition exercise. And when I graduated from NYU, I felt a bit lost because some days with some material, I could do it. And then I'd get the next job and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And that was very frightening, but a very typical thing for actors that they feel like their work is hit or miss. Sometimes they have it and sometimes they don't. And that
Oh
just
yeah.
feels, that's ridiculous to
Yeah.
me, but very typical. You don't see
Yeah.
violinists like that or architects.
We have the tendency sometimes to point the finger to somebody else, when the performance is not that good. I'm not just not in the day, right? It's something mystical, not tangible, something that
That's ridiculous
ridiculous. It's
because
not
you look
taking
at you.
responsibility for your actions, basically.
That's right. And if you look at wonderful actors, especially in theater,
Mm-hmm.
Denzel Washington did The Iceman Cometh, O'Neill's play on Broadway a couple years ago, and he did Fences before that with
Fences,
Viola
right?
Davis.
Viola Davis, right?
Well, so that's 8 shows a week. And I know that he cares that the Tuesday night audience is getting a good show, just like the Thursday night audience and the Sunday afternoon audience. And that consistency is a true mastery of the craft. And it also makes him a better film actor.
A way better film actor. Is New York also asking for that consistency? I mean, Brooklyn is a bit different, but it's still, it's
Brooklyn's New
yeah.
York. Brooklyn is Brooklyn is the 5th largest city just by
Yeah,
itself in the whole country. There's like
right.
5 million people here or something. So Brooklyn and New York is just a subway ride away. We're New Yorkers. I would say, because we love the theater here, even though most actors also do film and television, because as a friend of mine says, the theater pays you in hugs.
Yes,
Um,
hard.
Hugs is nice, but you got to pay the rent. But because we get to see great writing and great acting, and hopefully you do that work, that makes you a better actor. So I think we do, there's a lot of material. Some of it's bad, just like there's so much on Netflix and some of it's crappy.
Mm-hmm.
But we got great writing and great directing and great actors here and a great work ethic. We're gritty
Yeah,
here in New York,
yeah. Even though I love the West Coast, I'm very often in LA and I teach a lot of people over there, and it's great to be there. I feel like as a European, as somebody who loves the art and loves culture in itself and the appreciation for culture, I feel way more comfortable with the mindset of New York. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
always in between those two cities, trying to
Yes.
find my truth in there. But it's
Well,
such
they
a
really know how to make movies and television
yeah,
in LA, but the
absolutely.
training and the lifestyle is a little
Yeah.
bit more relaxed. And so I
Which to
like,
me as a Sicilian is okay, but
yeah, yeah, sure. You can relax and have a glass of wine and some peaches, but training should be hardcore.
yeah, I
It's
agree.
a
I had
short time
yeah.
and then take a vacation.
talking about vacation, we had a very weird vacation so far,
Yeah.
kind of forced vacation. And
Yes.
to a certain extent, also talking with a lot of creators out there, coaches and actors I interviewed for the show, but also privately, it felt good to most of the people I talked with. To a certain extent, it felt good because they could recover, recuperate, they could kind of regain that spirit, that focus. And it's strange because it kicks us out of our curves, of our street of habits, of routines, of practices that we usually have. And it's good to relax sometimes, but what do you preach to your students, how to stay focused and not to be too much distracted on what
Yeah.
could happen and what's coming next?
It's interesting because the two sets of people that I work with are professional actors on projects
Hmm.
and students who are training to become professional actors. The students actually have the advantage right now. We're actually working. We're not in person, we're on Zoom.
On Zoom, right? Yeah.
Right. So when you said that I was in Industry City, that's where my studio is, but actually we're on lockdown, so I'm in my home.
Sure.
I'm in my home office now, which is also in Brooklyn. And I've got students who would normally be in New York, but some of them are in Virginia and Texas and California because they had to go home or their parents wanted to come home. But we got every single one of our students to sign on to continue the training on Zoom. And I would have been the biggest doubter.
Hmm.
I said in the beginning of March when this was starting to unfold, I said, there's no way you can teach acting
Hmm.
online. You can teach history online, you can teach poetry online, but you can't do an embodied art form that requires touch and
Hmm.
presence and physicality with a camera. And I forgot, which is so strange, that so many of my coaching clients, because they're not in New York, this is how we connect on Skype or FaceTime, not Zoom, and all that work shows up on camera.
Hmm.
I did 9 seasons of Shameless with Emmy Rossum on Skype,
Hmm.
every single episode.
Hmm.
I've done feature films with Zac Efron and Sacha Baron Cohen and Sam Rockwell and all kinds of people, lots of people, all this way. I
Hmm.
mean, if we're in person, it's better because we get, but this does it, and it's not less. Sometimes they need to move their
Different.
bodies away.
That's right. It's
But
different.
in fact, I get to see your face really close up, and I can see all kinds of stuff there, and that's nice, right? So I forgot that. I said, well, we'll do it for a week, and if it doesn't feel excellent, because that's what I stand for, is excellence. I don't want this to be some watered down thing just to show up to be a babysitter. And they were doubtful. They were mad. They felt helpless. Some of them had lost their jobs. I mean, we got 40 million unemployed in New York right now, and a lot of my students are those people. They're waiters, they're bartenders, they're baristas, they're babysitters, and they don't have work. Luckily, we got some support from our government and we got some unemployment, so they were able to not starve, most of them, not all of them. And the ones that are struggling, I said, you can pay me later, but let's try it. We'll try it for a week. And lo and behold, the work started to happen. So we've been going for the last 70 days or so,
Beautiful.
twice a week,
Beautiful.
doing the training. And I've got 2 classes that are graduating, and they're going to be a pandemic graduate. So we're going to have an online graduation this Sunday. It's not the same as being in the room, the
No,
party. We don't,
really
we
not.
save some money on food, but we're going to do it, right? Now, my professional clients, some of them, I mean, Sam Rockwell was in the middle. He was a week away from opening in previews on Broadway for David Mamet's American Buffalo. That stopped. Now he's still running lines. It's Lawrence Fishburne and Darren Criss. And so they do it on Zoom. They run lines. But they're saying Broadway will probably not, I mean, they're saying September, but most people are thinking it's January. The New York Metropolitan Opera just canceled their fall. Emmy Rossum was in the middle, probably a quarter of the way through a 6-episode miniseries for NBC about Angeline. That stopped, just stopped. She's waiting to get back. Boyd Holbrook was filming. All these people were filming. So it didn't feel to them like, oh, it's nice to take time off. It's like, I'm in the
No.
middle of this. When am I going to get back? Yes, I mean, it's cool. I have a 6-year-old son. I'm with my wife. We have a lot more time together. I don't have to commute. I just get out of bed, have my coffee, and step into my office and do my work. That's
Right.
nice. Luckily, I had a few weights and stuff, so I can do training at home,
Right.
but because you can't buy dumbbells right now, they're sold out. There's a lot, it's like you couldn't get toilet
Somebody's
paper.
making some money right now, some serious
Someone's
money.
making some money. Yeah, it's crazy. We're working, and the actors that are students, they're doing great work. It's, you make adjustments. Like in the Meisner work, we have a knock on the door.
Hmm.
So we've kind of had to figure out, how do we do that? So we stop our video. One person is doing the activity and we see them. The other person stops their video, and then you hear, and the person goes, "Yeah, why are you knocking?" And they say, "It's Bob." "Okay, I'm opening the door." And that's the cue for the other person to turn on their video. And then we pretend that those two spaces are
Yeah,
one space.
right. Very cool.
And we do that with scenes. And, if I'm going to hand you a glass, the other person will take the glass from their space. And so
Very
we get that. Even kissing, you lean in and the other person leans in. It's not as satisfying, but something gets transmitted energetically. If I
In a
say,
way, we could
"Lorenzo,
learn from that.
yes, I want to touch your face, Lorenzo. I want to stroke you." And you feel that, right? You feel the energy. You don't
Yeah.
feel it literally on your skin, but you feel something. So, what we do is visual storytelling, whether it's on stage, but especially on film and television. And so learning to get good at this, and like, oh, where's the frame? I'm doing something on my desk. You can't see my desk. I better move that camera down so you can see it,
Mhm.
or move away, because otherwise you're not going to get it. If I've got some interesting behavior in my foot, I got to make it so you can see my foot. Otherwise, we're out of business. So it's making them more conscious. They're doing deep work. And I'll tell you, it's a hard time, because people are scared and sad, and they don't, it's not safe. They can't see their parents or their grandparents. They can't go to the gym. They can't go dancing. We can't go to movies. It's a really screwed up time. And for those people to develop the resilience, right, to be in the moment now and to train, when this is past,
That will be ahead of the game.
they're not only going to be ahead of the game, they're going to have a strength,
Yeah.
so that if they get rejected from an audition,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
big deal. I'll just be there for the next
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. The second
I'm
skin is already there. Yeah. I'm
That's
ready for
right.
this. Yeah. I
So I'm
agree.
so proud of them. Yeah.
Cool. Very, very empowering and
Yeah.
beautiful also. I think for a lot of people, not being able to come over to my studio and just being home and comfortable in their zone, for some of the newer clients that don't know really what's going on, maybe it's even better to kind of adapt, to
Absolutely.
master
That's
it, kind of to
so
get
right.
into the groove. He's sitting there in his place, everything is okay. He's not surrounded and bombarded by my missions and my
Yeah.
energy. So yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like that could also help. And I'm seriously thinking about in the future, maybe uh, integrating this whole process like this, like
Yeah.
having maybe a meeting first on Zoom, like really
Yeah.
diving in,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
later on, who knows? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I have a few students who made more breakthroughs in the last 2 months than in the
Mhm.
last 2 years.
Yeah,
And I think it's because they're in their homes and they feel more comfortable and they feel more private.
I believe that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't feel like as exposed as they would be in the studio, even though I'm
Yes,
sure
that's right.
it's
Yes.
absolutely cool
Yeah.
and super
Yeah.
inviting. It's not their home, and creative people sometimes they have
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
I've learned to respect that. Even
Yeah.
through the shooting process, of course, I've learned to respect that, but also working with students, that it is okay to take a moment. It is okay to take your time to adjust. Everybody has his own rhythm.
Yeah.
Everybody has his own way of dealing with things. The important thing is that you figure out how, that you learn
Yeah.
through the process, and then actually boom, put it
Yeah.
into action.
Actors
Otherwise,
get scared.
yeah,
I learned a lot once. One of my friends wrote a movie and gave me a small part in it, um, which was
that's
fun.
fine.
Yeah. And the scene was with him. And the director said action, and he didn't start acting.
Mm-hmm.
He took his time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I always thought action meant start talking.
Mm-hmm.
But for him, action meant, okay, you're ready. It's tape, so we're not wasting film. I, you
Right.
know, so he would just take 15
That's fine.
seconds, not a long time, but
Yeah.
he just got his groove on, and then he'd start. And I went like, wow, that guy is owning this set. It's his set now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It's not
mm-hmm.
the director's set.
I get
So I
that.
really appreciated
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I heard also Clint Eastwood is not saying action. He says whenever you want or something like that. Whenever you're ready,
Mm-hmm.
take
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
take your second, and then just take it
Yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's also a very, very powerful. If he gives you that right to decide when it's time to go, and that you're not, again, it's this system of validation, right? Now you
Yeah,
go. Now you have to do
yeah,
it
yeah,
because
yeah,
there is
yeah, yeah. And I think that's important. They talk about for an audition the idea of owning the room so that you're not there like a beggar saying, please give me a job. You're there like, look, I'm going to do my movie and I want you to watch me. And maybe that's the movie you want to make.
Mhm.
If so, we'll work together. If not, I still made my movie and it was good to meet you, and then done, move on.
This is what I can participate with today. I've done it to
Yeah.
the best of my experience and my purpose.
Yeah.
If you want to play with this, be my guest.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah. And not to be arrogant,
no,
but not to be
absolutely
like,
not.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people have a problem with this concept because they are not working thoroughly enough, because they're not sure enough about what they have to
Yeah.
present. Because once you got that,
Yeah.
you have that smartness and coolness and not arrogance to say, you know what, here it is.
Well, you
You
have
like
to have
this?
worked on it. You have to
Yeah,
know your lines and you have to have made choices and you have to have practiced them. And so you feel really ready to go. And
one of
that's going to make you feel confident.
absolutely. One of the reasons we're talking today, because I'm such a huge and incredible fan of Sam Rockwell and of his
Hmm.
work, and by
Yeah.
studying Sam Rockwell, I got pointed in your
Yeah.
direction. And
Almost 30 years we've been working together. Just
I think
about. Yeah.
in a way, even though he is a superstar, I think he's one of the most underrated of those superstars, because
Yeah.
people are not, but maybe that's a good thing. I don't know about his persona, but people don't talk enough about how he's presenting his characters, because I think it's truly, it's just simply great. It's overwhelming. It's a perfect mixture of technique and passion and inner drive and objectives and all of that. Please, since I also love Moon so much, it was such a great movie. He's
Yeah.
astonishing in that movie. Yeah, just give us a
Do you
little.
know how Sam got that movie? It's a
Yeah,
great story.
yeah, I know the
You
story.
do.
The story is
Yeah.
incredible. One of those
Yeah.
great, incredible stories. But please share it. Share it with our.
Well, I love to tell the story. So Duncan Jones, who's David Bowie's son and
Mhm.
wrote and directed that film, Sam doesn't really audition anymore for the most part. It's a
Yes.
nice place for an actor to get where they just give you offers. But he auditioned for that, for something else that Duncan Jones was doing and didn't get the part and moved on. And 2 years later, his agent got a call saying Duncan Jones has written a movie and he wrote it for Sam,
Hmm.
and that was Moon.
And that was Moon.
And basically, Sam's the star of that movie. There's
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey and a woman
But
playing
you
his
just
wife are in
remember
it.
Sam after that
Yeah,
movie.
because he plays all these clones. So
Right.
it's such a great story because it means you never know where your work goes. So often actors, mostly, they audition and then they just don't get the part, but they don't hear, we loved you, or you were amazing. Sometimes feedback gets back to the agent, but you never know where it goes. So the fact that his audition stayed with Duncan Jones
Hmm.
and he wrote a movie with Sam in mind, Sam at the center,
Hmm.
that's just great.
Yeah, because I've worked with some, let's say, more famous clients and some A-list clients as well, and some of the people of my environment who kind of noticed that, kind of asked me like, what was he needing? Did he want something special from you or something? And to me, my experience also talking to other coaches was that you're an actor, whether you're a super famous actor or like a starving actor, you're an actor. So you basically need always the same things. There's nothing, and I'm pretty sure this is true about Sam as well. Now you're coming up with a totally crazy story.
No, I mean, I think that, first of all, Sam um, is a wild guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's, there's a wildness in him
Mm-hmm.
and a depth and a freedom.
Wow, that's
But
pretty
he's
cool.
also incredibly disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
And so he loves to be very ready and have as much time as possible to put something together because he knows it's going to take him some time.
Mm-hmm.
And so every project he will assess very smartly what he needs for it. And some of that is going to be me, and some of that's no doubt going to be a dialect coach, and
Mm-hmm.
some of that might be anything else that the character needs to be an expert at that isn't in his wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, when he did Confessions of a Dangerous Mind,
Yeah.
which you can see the screen test on YouTube, it's
Yes,
fantastic.
it's
Back when they
fantastic.
did screen tests,
Yes.
because they were really taking a chance on him. You know, George Clooney, that was his first feature directing, a very wild story, and Sam was not a name, and so they were not going. You know, and George Clooney basically said, "Give this guy the part. I'll stand behind him," and he got it. He did a great screen test, and we worked on that quite a bit. But he was playing a guy who was a game show host named Chuck Barris, a kind of a crazy weirdo,
Yeah.
who wrote an autobiography where he also said he worked for the CIA and was a trained assassin, which who knows if it's true or not. It's pretty weird.
Probably
But
it's true.
for the scenes in the movie where he needed to be an assassin, Sam needed some very particular martial arts
Mhm.
skills. Sam does boxing. He's an avid boxer. He has been for years. But there are other stuff involving weapons and nunchucks and jujitsu holds. So he worked with a couple guys on that. When he did Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which he won the Oscar for, he played a cop. And so he went out to Missouri and found a cop that he could hang out with for a couple days and do drive-alongs with.
Mhm.
And you know, so he's mad about research, whatever that is. And so that really puts him into it. And the other part of research that he does is Sam has a wild encyclopedic memory of film acting, especially 70s film acting.
Cool.
And so we're always using those iconic films, whether it's Dustin Hoffman in Straight Time or Midnight Cowboy or Godfather or Raging Bull or whatever, 70s and 80s, to as a reference point. And it's almost like paint. So it's a little bit of Bill Murray and Meatballs meets uh, somebody else in
That's the number.
Jaws. Yeah, Dustin. And it's like it gets all mixed around,
Right.
and then we'll watch. So sometimes when I'm working with Sam, we'll go to his house and we'll watch movies together,
Mhm.
and we'll just watch a moment, like because he knows these movies, and like, oh, there's John Hurt in The Onion Field. Now, most people don't know that movie, but it's a gorgeous performance. And what about that? Or John Cassavetes movie, and
Mhm.
just time when, you know, for instance, Galaxy Quest, which is there's now a documentary, a funny movie.
It is.
Um, but I'll tell you the acting of that movie. He plays a guy named Guy Fleegman who kind of gets mistakenly aboard this spaceship that's supposed to be just an homage to a show like Star Trek, and then these aliens actually thought they were, and then all of a sudden they're
Mhm.
in, and Tim Allen's in it, and all these great people. He's the essence of that character is he's scared. He's a scaredy cat. Well, the work on that, even though it's super funny, Sam had to go to the darkest places. I mean, he had to go to some really, really personally scary places to be as terrified and petrified as he needed when the camera was rolling.
I see.
So oddly enough, the work was just as deep as it would be for
Sure.
like the Green Mile,
Of
you
course.
know.
Of course.
Um,
Comedy sometimes, well, I think most of the times,
you
comedy,
have to go there.
yeah, you have to be there because it's
Yeah,
live. It's drama written with the mirror. So
that's
you
right.
have to be
Yeah,
ready for everything that comes and
yeah,
still laugh about it in a way.
yeah.
So it's even harder to endure in the process. Do you like Paul Auster?
I do, yes.
Do you still read him like you used to? Probably.
You know, I don't read as much as I should, and I wish I did.
Yeah, me too.
But what would you recommend?
Right now from him, I still love his older stuff way more than, you know, the later appearances. But it's always like that. It's with movies like that. It's with literature like that. Not
I'm gonna
not
write it
necessarily
down.
with painting, but you know,
Yeah,
it's hard to stay consistently driven and have that enormous and incredible quality output
yeah,
for such a even great directors sometimes they kind of fail like glamorously, but they still
yeah,
fail. So I think that it's also important for our craft to kind of see that. No, because I loved him. I still do, but I'm not in to Paul Auster like I used to. And of course, Brooklyn is, you know,
yeah, yeah.
I Smoke was the Harvey
Mm,
Keitel monologue out of Smoke. I think, yeah, it's Harvey Keitel. it was my favorite monologue. I
Mm.
nailed so many, so many auditions with that.
Oh,
So
that's great.
because I love his language, I love his demeanor, the way
I want
he
to just say about Sam also, he loves a
yeah.
challenge. You
Mm,
know, so like when he did this Bob Fosse
yeah.
miniseries with Michelle Williams, Fosse Verdon, I mean, he had to lose a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
He had to take daily dance lessons, and Sam loves to dance, but he had to become a great dancer. He had to age. He had to do drug and alcohol impediments because Bob Fosse was a drunk and did a lot of drugs. I
Right.
mean, there was so much work that got put into that, so much quality, detail. I mean, he worked his butt off on that, and the pace of TV is brutal.
It
It's,
is.
you know, they cram so much into a 6-day week, and he was really working 7 days a week. And I just have such incredible respect for how hard Sam worked to make that performance. And I think it's a great performance. So I love Sam as a friend. He was the best man at my wedding,
Oh, really? Oh,
um,
cool.
and he's a lovely guy. He's always bringing presents for my son. He's just a great human being and a tremendous artist, and I can't respect him enough.
I think he's really one of the greats out there. He's
I
absolutely,
do. I agree.
absolutely, absolutely. Like there is no role, like literally no role. And I wanted to talk about that with you also. Wanted to touch upon that. So that's beautiful that it's coming up. Like Sam makes average scripts great. He's
Yes,
one of
and
those very few, very rare actors that that are a bit more independent from the author's text, that are a bit more independent from the scripture, and really can fulfill that life to
yeah,
degrees. Like you
yeah,
can literally see it's up to him. If he's
yeah,
having his day, if he's feeling right, if he's done everything, he's taking it there, even with an average script. Not everybody is able to do that.
yeah. Well, we try and put flavor and shape and fun in it, and he's willing to say no. He says no to
Mm.
a lot of stuff,
That's important too, at a
and he
certain
would
level.
say he even at the beginning level, you know, you do
Mhm.
tend to take everything that's offered to you, but he would say he's come to my studio a couple times and spoken to the young actors there, and he said the greatest power you have is to say no as an actor. You know,
Even as a human being, like we're saying,
yeah,
like we're
yeah,
seeing right
yeah,
now, because
yeah,
no gives you control. No
yeah,
gives you your space. No,
yeah,
I don't want that. If
yeah,
and maybe it's stigmatized in such a way through our educational system that we think that no
yeah,
necessarily is a bad thing, even in acting or in improv, right? Because they
hmm,
say no,
yeah,
I don't want to deny the scene. No, that's
yes,
if you're
yeah,
saying no as a character during an improv, it doesn't mean that you're denying the scene or denying
yes,
the
yes,
curring that you're getting from your counterpart. It's just that
yeah,
you're establishing a baseline. And under that baseline, so many things happen. No, it's just an expression, but it gives you control, first of all. It gives you some choices, some instruments you can work with. Start
yeah.
from there. Talking about you can only be as good as your scripture is. Is that true? What do you think? Like, how much do we need to invest more sometimes in order to kind of compensate? Because I feel like, yeah, there's many great monologues out there, but still, like, I'm 30 plus years in the business. I'm still coming back to the classical stuff. I'm still coming back to Gene O'Neill, to Goethe, to Schiller, to
Yes, yeah.
those people.
Well, I would say that it's interesting. In America, we have two different unions representing writers,
Hmm.
and the writers of plays, they have the union's called the Dramatists Guild,
Hmm.
and the writers of film and television, it's called the Writers Guild of America, the WGA. With the Dramatists Guild, you can't touch a word. Like if I'm doing a production of that play, without the playwright's permission, if I pay for the rights to that play,
You can't mess with the
uh,
words.
I can't mess with the words. With the WGA, sometimes 10 different writers will have touched a script. Basically, you sell it as a thing. I'm giving you my script,
Hmm.
and depending on who it is, I
Yeah.
mean, certain, but so it's not unusual for me to work with an actor on a film or television script and come up with rewrites, you know, which is kind of, I mean, that's not what I teach. I don't say change the words, but if the words aren't right, we come up with propositions. And sometimes even an actor won't take a script unless they're willing to rewrite the overall
Hmm.
arc of the character.
I see.
And they'll say, okay, I'll do it, but I need a fight scene with my boss. because it makes no sense otherwise,
Sure.
or and so sometimes that becomes part of the negotiation, so that the script is
Interesting.
already getting better, and say, if you can't do that, if we can't find a happy medium here,
Right.
then I don't want to do it. And so it's very often when I'm working with A-list actors on film and TV that we're messing around with the script.
Hmm.
Now it gets tricky if the director is also the writer, because it's precious to them.
Yes.
They're a little bit attached,
Yes. A
and
little bit.
that happened recently on a project. But more often than not, there, if it's TV, there might be several different writers. If it's a screenplay for a movie, that writer is probably not the director, and we can mess with it. We don't have to ask for their permission. And messing with it just means making it better, making it clearer, because so much film and television writing is about plot structure and rarely about character.
Hmm.
And the language is rarely poetic, which is
Yes.
why you go back to O'Neill and Goethe and Schiller. And I like that you're mentioning these German writers that we don't think so much about, but we should. Um,
They're great.
uh,
They're absolutely
and David Mamet, and
absolutely David Mamet.
wonderful, wonderful writers like that. So you need a good story. And
Mm.
if you have a good story, sometimes we can change the words, and sometimes films are improvised. Sometimes they'll just say, okay, we're going to turn on the camera and you go. And we're in the structure of the story, but the words just come out however they come out. And sometimes it's like that. That's cool too.
What's your favorite story?
Well, I love The Godfather. I think that Godfather 1 and 2 is a perfect movie.
Hmm.
And I think of them together, though,
Hmm.
because The Godfather 2 has the prequel where De Niro plays the guy who eventually becomes Brando, and then it sort
Yeah.
of goes to the end. I think it's a classic uh, tragedy. I think it's a classic hero story where we see Pacino's character start out as innocent, and then really come into, and I'm, as an outsider, I'm not part of the
Yes.
family business.
Yeah.
And then when his dad gets shot, comes in. I love the Diane Keaton part. I mean, just all the different roles. John Cazale as Fredo, and um,
It's a hero with
it's just
thousand faces in a way. It's a
it's a
mythological
per
story.
it's a it is it's a perfect movie, and it's an acting lesson.
It is.
Because James Caan's work, Pacino's work, Duvall's work,
Duval's work.
Brando,
Brando,
Diane Keaton,
everybody in that
John
movie
Cazale.
is
I mean, there
superb.
are such, Lee Strasberg's work
Yes.
is extraordinary, and just the cinematography and what Francis Ford Coppola did with that, and how well it's directed.
And the whole
That,
story behind it, like
yeah,
all these critical masses, all those islands of
yeah,
incredible creativity
yeah,
kind of led into this very elegant and wow, artistic, wow,
yeah,
beautiful movie. Yeah, absolutely. Godfather is great.
yeah.
It's a great story. I love great stories. We should tell more and better, like better stories, not more stories, better stories as actors
Uh,
as well. Like
yeah.
I'm working on a daily, so I have to be super fast and I have to carve out the truth in a couple, matter of minutes sometimes. And it's a great challenge. I love it because it kind of pushes me and gets me to my
What do you
boundary.
mean by a daily? Maybe we call it something different.
It's a daily show. I'm recording a daily show at
Oh,
a
okay.
soap opera that I'm
Oh,
shooting
wow. Wow.
as a regular. So yeah, it's as a protagonist. So
That's crazy,
it's a
because
crazy workload.
I was shadowing to direct soap operas at one point, and then it didn't feel right. But I was on set. They would get there at 7 in the morning for makeup and
Hmm.
hair, start shooting at 9, go to 7 at night, get 30 pages that night,
Yeah,
and have to come back the next morning
yeah,
with those memorized and
yeah.
ready to go.
That's what we're
That's
doing for over
insane.
15 years now.
That is insane.
It is. It is, but
It's
it's great for your
insane.
brain.
Yeah, you have to work fast.
You have to work fast and you have to find the truth immediately. You have to spot what's important about and what's important in the scene, what's really remarkable about it. Just tell that
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
scrap off everything that's useless. That's why
yeah,
I totally get what you're saying about Sam Rockwell, because in a very weird way, that's, the thing that you need to do is also when you're working on a daily basis like this, you have to find constant motivation. And my motivation comes through the research, comes
yeah,
through you know, relentlessly studying new
Yeah.
stuff and creating output so that I can insert as much as I, you know, can from all that, what I've learned into my daily work. So it kind of feeds
Yeah.
that and always stays vivid and
Yeah.
transparent in a way. Um,
Yeah.
even though the stories, of course, are what they are. And like, if you think about giving your students the first assignment, giving them a sheet of paper, and you write down how the perfect improv, the perfect story should evolve, what would you write down on that sheet of paper? What would you give to your students, like, to set off the scene?
Well, it's not really the Meisner approach to do it quite like that,
No, I know.
but we get into, well, I really like the shared circumstance exercises. So
Mhm,
that's a little bit further down the road, but we are boyfriend and girlfriend. Everything's great. Give yourself a reason why you can't move to California.
mhm,
And then I come in celebrating because I just got a 2-year contract on a show in California. And of course, I really want you to come with me. And the
mhm,
conflict is already built in.
mhm.
And then I have to choose between love and my career. That
Nice.
could be that could be interesting.
Wonderful, yeah.
Um,
And it would be still
or
Meisner, right? Everybody has his
oh
own.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's that. Or there's a wonderful scene. Katharine Hepburn's first movie was called A Bill of Divorcement, and
Mhm,
John Barrymore was in it. And she plays a woman who John Barrymore's her father. He's insane. He
mhm,
has a mental illness, it's like schizophrenia or bipolar. She's in love. She's engaged. She finds out that the doctor tells her that the insanity is hereditary, and she's more than likely to get it, which
mhm.
means that the man she's engaged to be married to will be dealing with an insane person, and that possibly their children will be insane. So it's heartbreaking. And then she comes in and picks a fight with him on purpose. She prepares for heartbreak, and then she comes in and picks a fight with him so that he'll break up with her, so that she's saving him from a life of terrible,
Wow,
obligation and pain.
absolutely.
And then after the fight, she breaks down. So sometimes we improvise with that.
Mhm.
You just found out you have brain cancer, everything's great. And then you come in and you start like, why do you have those black letters behind you? What's that red letter with it? Why aren't you wearing a t-shirt? Right? What is that stupid microphone? Did you spend a lot of money on that microphone or whatever? And
Mhm,
just deciding
mhm.
to do something really hateful for
To
the
set
sake of
off,
love.
right, for the
That's
sake of love.
interesting,
That's
you
truly
know.
interesting. Going into
Yeah,
that direction to have
right.
good, for
Yeah,
a good purpose in a way.
yes. And then what's really interesting, especially with actors' egos, is imagining that you're actually a terrible actor. And then, right? And then like
No, it's too
what,
too far. I can't
right?
go there. I can do
Right. Well,
everything. I can play
they don't,
Hitler, but I
it's
can't do
like,
that.
right. This woman was doing one. She's such a good actress in my class, and she was going to get ready. She was sort of getting sexy because she was going to go sleep with a producer to get a part. But then she said, "Well, it's a part I'm perfect for." And this other girl he was going to give it to, she's not as good as it. And I said, "There's a lot of pride in that. It would be much better if you were a terrible actor and it was a small part, and
Hmm.
you were still going to sleep with him because you'd rather be in a movie than work in a bakery."
Hmm.
And she was there like,
Hmm.
she couldn't even imagine the idea of being a bad actor, right? But that would be so rich to
Yes.
actually go, because isn't it, it seems to me that the elephant in the room of every acting class anywhere is, what if I'm terrible? What if this is all a weird illusion and everyone else is better than me and I'm never going to have a career and I really suck? Those are the devils inside us.
Yes,
And so to play with those devils is really fun if you
it
can get
is.
into it. Yeah.
And once you play with the fire, you get used to it. You're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
afraid
Yeah.
of it anymore.
Yeah.
You can deal way better
Yeah.
with it if you burn sometimes.
Yeah. Bringing the darkness out is really where it's at.
The heart of darkness. I
Yes.
would say it's the
That's
heart
right.
of darkness we sometimes
Yes.
have to go to and travel to,
Yeah.
and be also supportive for the people to understand. Sometimes they don't feel like going into those dark places, and
Yes.
I, I pushed them. I
Yeah.
do my very best to be gentle and very kind, but sometimes
Yeah.
I have to bring them there because I know they got the potential to master whatever is coming up. But eventually, once in a while, sometimes doesn't want to step down those stairs, doesn't want to go down into the basement, and yeah, we have to be
As we
supportive
say
and
in America, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
drink. Let's talk a little bit what's going on, because I mean, we are creative people. We are living from our environment, from observing, reacting to it, implementing it, and then creating another output for people tangible to see. So that's some sort of entertainment. So we can't deny what is going on in America right now as a huge upheaval. It's a call for justice, and it's people making themselves heard. Of course, there's always a small group of troublemakers involved when a lot of people are on the street and protesting and demonstrating. The same thing is happening over here in Germany. A lot of people demonstrating, protesting for several reasons, also for George Floyd. And I think we maybe we can use this quarantine. Maybe we can use this period and really reflect on ourselves, on where we have to absolutely get better, address things more. And even if you're not being against somebody doesn't mean that you are for him, that you're rooting for him, that you're doing whatever you could do to support him to the best of your practice, of your strength and force. And I can't even imagine how crazy it is to not going down, or because it's unsafe. And seeing those pictures, it's tremendous. We really have to change. We really have to change as human beings.
We all, especially recognizing the privilege of being a white person, is very important. I don't face and will not face the treatment that my Black brothers and sisters face on a daily basis. And it's really important to be an ally and to stand up and to also examine myself for any conscious or unconscious racism and thought process, because it is a system. What we say here is that we have systemic racism built into the system. It's built in. It's built into our police system. It's built into our politics. It's built into our courts. It's built into our economic system. It's built into the access to medical care. It's built into so many things. And it's a legacy of slavery, and it's a legacy of so much. And it feels like the lid is blowing off that right now. It's just the SpaceX rocket went up on Saturday, to the and to see all that thrust, it feels like that's the kind of power. It takes a certain amount of thrust to get a rocket up into the air, that big a rocket, and then out past gravitational pull and into the stratosphere and then up into space. We need that kind of gravitational thrust to move us beyond just, okay, yet another Black man killed by a policeman. There'll be protests for a few days and then back to normal. There is no going back to normal. We're already not normal now. And so I hope and I pray that the momentum and the fury and the heartbreak and the energy that is happening in every city in America right now is going to lead to some sort of systemic dismantling of an old system that doesn't work, and to create a new paradigm of equity, inclusion, recognizing of everybody's rights, that everybody matters. And we're going to do that at the ballot box, and we're going to do that with protest, and we have to be vigilant about it. And I am hopeful right now that things are so, they're just, the molecules are moving so much on a daily basis, that it's an opportunity for real leadership and real empathy, and which is what actors need. And there are going to be stories that will be told about this. And as I think I said to you before we started, the biggest tool, the biggest secret weapon in an actor's toolbox is empathy, the ability to put themselves in the shoes of anybody, not just good people. And so if you feel strongly, for instance, about abortion and a woman's right to choose, you're truly an actor if you can play the other side of that and see the right to life movement as the only way to be, and to really understand white supremacists. You know, Sam played a KKK member. in this movie, The Best of Enemies.
Hmm.
It's a true story.
Yeah.
And, you know, the first thing is that's a hard story. The KKK is an outfit that is dedicated to destroy blackness and Jews and sees itself as a, you know, it's a white supremacy. To go into that space, you got to have a stomach for it, and you
Yeah.
got to be willing to look at stuff, and you got to get ugly
Yeah.
and be willing for your heart to break. But if you do that, then somebody seeing the movie is changed. And
Absolutely.
you cannot do the Disney version
Yeah.
of this. And so
I
I
tell my
think that,
actors always, it needs to hurt till it
yes, it needs to
it
hurt.
needs
That's
to
right.
hurt. If it
That's right.
doesn't, if it's so comfortable, if everything is accommodating, then probably it's not
Yes,
entertaining, and
that's right.
it's not the right thing.
Well, it might be entertaining, but it's not going to be art.
Yeah, it's not. Maybe it's entertaining, but in my opinion, if it's not art, it lacks soul, it lacks passion, it
That's
lacks
right.
the
We
spirit of
agree.
contribution. So I don't know if that is, and
We agree.
yeah, we have to build a structure in our society that is based on love and abundancy, and not on scarcity and fear. And I think the system is dismantling itself in a certain way by treating its population, its human beings that it's containing in such a way, because then of course it becomes obsolete, because it's not standing with what the times are now reflecting in
Yes.
all of the world. And we are, you know, the proof for that. And let me tell you, I mean, it's not the circumstantial chit chat. I was just talking about that today. I'm a Sicilian over here in Germany with you know, a single mother that kind of raised me, and then she got divorced. And in the 80s in Germany, that were very conservative, was very strict. And my mother was offended many times at school, and, you know, during, you know, public whatever meetings and stuff like that. We were treated badly, and to a certain extent it was healthy to our system to kind of get that second layer of understanding that people have problems with, you know, with themselves. They are afraid of whatever situation, they project that on whoever is suitable right now in the moment. And in this easiness of evil projection, that has to stop. And we can only do that by changing the system at its root and building up a system that is based on love and understanding, abundancy, and embracing the cultural differences, because in the end they make us richer. I mean, art is all about the richness of, look at, you know, Actor Studio, Elia Kazan, where do all these people come from? Strasbourg, Stanislavski. I mean, it's about Brecht, it's
Sidney Poitier,
Sidney Poitier, so
Harry
many,
Belafonte, you
pretty much
know, and
everybody. Like this
we yeah,
Sicilian fraction of the music industry, entertainment industry in Hollywood is incredible. How many different and beautiful contributions they made,
yeah,
and they make art worth living. They make
yeah,
art the thing that inspires us, even in those times that we're facing right now. So when
yes.
people listen, like, do art right now. Thank you so much, Terry. It's been really
My
uplifting.
pleasure.
It was a
My
great pleasure. I
pleasure.
think our community, our respective communities, can gain a lot of this conversation.
You know, we're online right now, so if someone wants to do a little training, you don't have to come to New York. We have a summer session, and you can do some Meisner training online, and
Be
it
sure.
works.
Yeah, absolutely. I will include all of the links of Terry Knickerbocker.
Yeah. So nice to meet you. You got a lot of energy.
Thank you.
I'd love to see a clip of you on the soap opera.
Sure.
Yeah.
I send you some materials, and you want.
Thank you so much, and stay healthy.
Stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you so much, creative community.
You.
It's been a
Take
great
care.
pleasure having you today on the show. Thank you so much to our guest, Terry Knickerbocker. See you next time. Subscribe, share, and hit the like button. And yeah, now you're ready to perform.